Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us to one more episode, one more edition of Dojo Live, connecting experts like you. And, well, as ever, we have our fellow teammate, Softy and Tulio Siragusa from LA. Hi, Tulio. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Good to be here again, Carlos. I'm excited for today's Dojo Live.
Absolutely. So am I, and so is a lot of people here, a lot of the folks here that are watching today. Okay, today we're going to be having a very fine conversation with Mr. Sunay Tripathi. He is the CTO at the MobiledgeX. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have you here as well. Sunay, so welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Tulio.
Cool. Okay, so Sunay, you're in Menlo Park, right? You're in California.
That's correct.
Okay.
We're in Menlo.
Perfect. So, well, Sunay, I'd like to start off today's conversation. Can you just first tell us a little bit about you? Tell us a little bit about you, and of course about MobiledgeX and about your company, and then we can take it from there. Then we'll move on to today's chosen topic.
Sure. Let me give you a small introduction. So I've lived in Silicon Valley for 25 odd years. Stanford grad, worked in Sun Microsystem, heydays of Sun Microsystem when we were building the internet, right? When we couldn't build machines fast enough, and we were selling $1 million machines to just serve web traffic. A lot of the initial technology on Sun around networking, containerizing, virtual networking. So all that, 10 gigabit Ethernet, all that was done by me and my team. And we're talking late 90s, early 2000s. So that was kind of, the background. And from there, I went on and did a startup called Pluribus Networks. It was in the software-defined networking space. It's a very successful startup. We raised about $120 million in money, and we are serving some of the telecom customers. And at some point, it's like last year, we started looking at what's going on in the world and what is happening. And the interesting part is that's when around the time I'm kind of mid-40s, starting to figure out, hey, what do I want to do? And it looks like you have more career ahead of you than behind you. So it's like starting figuring out, and you came across Deutsche Telekom. So these guys are, the biggest German telecom, and they are kind of, pretty advanced. And they've been tinkering around with building edge. And it's kind of interesting, right? So they've been kind of, for telecom, fairly advanced in terms of, how applications work and, what is the next incarnation of public cloud and so on and so forth. So I came across these guys, then, there are a couple of colleagues that I met from my Sweden days. And we decided to kind of do MobiledgeX, basically, right? So MobiledgeX is, it's a Silicon Valley company. It's a Delaware corporation, but it is funded by Deutsche Telekom in Germany, basically, right? And the idea is that we build the edge around, for next generation applications and so on and so forth. And we're about 25, 30 people. We started early this year. Like all things I do, it's very innovative. The goal is to create something for next 10, 15 years. So that's kind of, what we are doing in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Cool, perfect. I appreciate it, Sunay. Okay. The next thing is, well, of course, we're going to be talking about something specific, and you're going to be sharing with some insights, right, on what it means to integrate into the mobile edge cloud, right, the world. And I believe that your chosen topic for today was building a mobile edge cloud for the next generation of applications. So, Sunay, can you tell us why you chose this particular topic?
So it was easy. That's my current job. So it's easy to discuss that.
Perfect.
And just briefly going into it, Carlos, what is it that next generation of applications mean for us, right? So if you look at smartphones or cell phones as we use today, right? When Apple invented, well, not quite invented, but they commercialized the smartphone, it's been 10 years old now, right? So we got used to so many things with the smartphones. We got used to connectivity. You know, I go camping in Amazon forest, and I expect my cell phone to work. I expect my email to work. I expect my video chats to work, and so on and so forth. So we've got this universal connectivity across the world on a mobile device, which is more powerful than the computers we used to build 20 years back. But that's 10 years old now, right? So what is changing, what this device and this paradigm got us used to, that we want to see more and more human interaction, right? So we want to see more and more video. Like this chat show we are doing right now, you know, we are all on video, we are doing a live video feed, and, you know, there are people across the world that are seeing us. I've done version of this for the last 20 years. You know, there used to be audio shows. Initially, they used to be pre-recorded, pre-canned, and then put on websites. Then they became, well, it's live audio, and that was such a big thing. And now it's become video. Soon we want it to be 4K video. Soon we want it to be 12K videos. Because at the end of the day, the human wants to interact with the world in a natural way, which is visual, right? So as applications become more and more visual aware, as applications become more and more mobile, because human wants to be not tied to a desk, he is moving around, he is mobile all the time. And you know, some of the smartphone capabilities start going into his car, his wearables, his glasses, and so on and so forth, and they're doing all heavy IO. The biggest challenge you start facing is that, look, by definition, we are mobile, we are moving around, which means we are on battery power, which means we want to conserve battery power. But at the same time, the video processing on the device burns battery like hell. So what do? Right? How do we enable this new world? So the biggest challenge we had was, how do you conserve battery power, and how do you enable the new world of human interaction and people doing peer-to-peer and so on and so forth? So this is where I think what MobiledgeX and along with my friends here doing, we go down the path of looking at where can we offload this video processing, where can we offload this compute processing, where can we have ubiquitous compute around us that's not too far away, right? Because public cloud is there, but turns out public cloud is fairly far away from latency perspective because humans typically are not very patient. You want to do stuff, you want to see a quick response, you know, augmented reality, virtual reality, while you're looking at something, you want something overlaid on top. So the latencies are pretty short. So what we ended up doing is going down the path of looking at, you know, the operators, which are telecom operators, and saying, look, you guys already are dealing with me because, you know, I'm at the end of the day connected to you for cellular connectivity. At the end of the day, you guys have a lot of infrastructure next to the towers. Can we actually offload some of these applications on that infrastructure that we have next to the towers and go about actually processing that? So that's kind of, you know, in a nutshell, some of the things we are looking at, right? I mean, the fundamental problem here is that how do you do a lot of processing while conserving battery life, and where do you offload it to? So hopefully this gives you guys a flavor of where we are coming from and where the world is trying to go, basically.
That's great. I'd love to go a little back in time and really help the audience understand what this means. And I want to get some clarification for it myself. I mean, I started in telecom 29 years ago. And I do remember I had a client, Viacom, that wanted to have collaboration between their LA studios and New York studios. And at the time, it was a big deal to put a video room in place and collaboration technology. I mean, it was like millions of dollars to make this happen. Dedicated access lines and the massive amounts of data that needed to be transported across the country. It was just, you know, kind of like you could do it all on your phone today. It's ridiculous what you can do compared to just 25 years ago. But, you know, so then we developed multiplexing, and we're able to squeeze a lot more data, but it was all moving from one end to the other. So are you suggesting that what you're introducing now is the ability to process information at the edge of the cloud so that the device accessing it is not so dependent on having everything here, right? But then, and the same thing happens on the other side, so that there's a lot less data dependency at the device level? Help us understand how that works, if you don't mind.
So let me give you a simple example, right? I mean, that's a very good question, Julia, because if you look at simply for a video feed even, right? Half the time, the video content that's generated today is and it's a very rich content. 99% of it is just noise. Take our video feed, for instance, right? We are sitting there, what are the events that are interesting, right? Other than the voice part, the video part of our conversation is, well, we know what you look like. We saw that in first few seconds. We know what I look like. We saw that in first second, basically, right? But both you and I are just sitting there, basically, right? There's no event happening. I didn't get up. You didn't get up. We didn't make any hand signs. We didn't pull any notes in front of us. So if you look at it, you need to analyze this video and figure out, because that's where the world is today, right? You want to go and say, for instance, if you actually ask this question and I want to show you a drawing and I put the drawing up in my face in front of it, and on the camera feed, the drawing is not very legible today, right? But what software can do very quickly is actually, because if I hand scribbled it, it can actually annotate it, and it can actually impose something which is a translation of, not translation, or clarification of their handwriting than what I would do, and show it to the audience, right? That's called augmented reality. Basically, what you did is you saw Sunay's ugly handwriting, because I like to not pen and paper most of the time. So you saw the by scribbling, and you actually quickly using software actually made it presentable, so audience could actually understand what Sunay wrote on the paper. Now that means some piece of software has to continuously process this video feed, right? And if that piece of software is very close to where my device is, basically, right, that it can continuously process it, when it finds things of interest, it can actually superimpose itself and do what it needs to do without needing to send that video feed all the way to the public cloud, right? And it can do that in a very latency-sensitive manner, where it's very quickly done, and in a few milliseconds, it's done, versus waiting for some software in public cloud to come and say, send a response, basically, right? Good example is some of these video games we play, which are augmented reality video games and so on and so forth. You need to process a lot of feed. The interesting things are probably few seconds in every 5 minutes, and you want to augment something in there, and that's the easy thing that you can do from Edge, where Edge can do a lot of these processing, and computer vision is the main term we use for these kind of things, basically, right? So you can run computer vision from the edge, you can run artificial intelligence from the edge on these things that humans need, basically, right? Does it make sense?
Absolutely. So I'm curious now, who is your client? Or are you going to be, right? Because I'm like, okay, that'd be cool to have that. I mean, I can see pretty vast implications of who could benefit from this, but who's your client that you're selling this to? Who's the buyer?
Now we're asking $1 million or possibly $1 billion questions here.
I get the benefit as the user, but I'm curious, is it the telecom companies? Is it the Googles of the world? I'm curious to see who you're targeting, because this is pretty far-reaching technology, right?
Keep in mind, we're still operating as a startup here, Tulio, basically, right? So we are about exactly 7 months old. So we've kept our options open. We are still trying to figure out some of these things, and probably in the next few months we'll be more public about how do we want to do this, basically, right? But the goal here is to make it easy for application guys to actually, because we are not writing the application. At the end of the day, we are kind of, next incarnation of a public cloud, for a lack of better word, where we are enabling applications that want to be close to humans, give them a platform, right? So some of the mechanics might be similar to how commerce happens in public cloud, basically, right? It's allowing the application guys to reach closer to their mobile users, and what does that enable them, and what would be the models based on that? We are doing some analysis. So let's see how it goes. Don't have an answer yet.
That's okay. I'm curious, would the operators have a financial benefit from implementing this kind of technology in terms of less dependency on data across the network?
So operators definitely have a financial benefit from it, because if you look at, as we get richer content, and if that content has to be processed in public cloud, and all that content has to reach the public cloud, assuming 7 billion people on the planet, and even 10% of them doing some kind of video processing at a given point, and all that needs to go to public cloud, we just don't have that kind of backhaul networks to take it to a public cloud. So definitely there is a lot of incentive for operators to enable that. The world is also becoming very mobile, so operators are definitely very interested in this. The application guys are even more interested in this, because if you look at the world of what is the hottest thing these days, it's computer vision, artificial intelligence, right? AI, and so on and so forth. So they're all targeting humans, basically, right? So if you look at all these applications that are targeting humans, and all the companies which want to make billions of dollars out of these new generation applications, they want to reach their users while they're mobile. So they have very heavy incentive to support this ecosystem, right? So we have kind of incentives from both sides. Both sides are very interested in this, basically, to enable that.
So when you talk about next-gen applications and the user, is it safe to assume we're also talking about wearables and things of that sort? IoT?
Yeah, absolutely. The next generation, what we are building as a mobile edge cloud, primarily targeting mobility and human interaction, by definition, it ends up being wearables, right? By definition, it ends up being smartphone is the current incarnation today, but it's all morphing and changing. Google Glass was an incarnation. That was a good experiment. I think we need a more production-worthy experiment of that. And, we're talking to our friends in Google Land about what's there. There is all these other kind of wearables that are coming out. You also see cars being a very good candidate for these things, because cars are becoming a pretty much entertainment system by themselves. We're also looking at cars working together as a fleet, right? And maybe the consumer cars will be the last, but you already start seeing some of these for how do we move a fleet of truck together from one place to another? How do we move public transport together from one place to another, basically, right? And coordinates and so on and so forth. So a lot of that swarming capability comes from Mobile Edge, because you need to know where the devices are, and the devices need to know about each other, and the devices need to coordinate their location among each other. There needs to be some intelligent software that's also involved in making this happen, right? Where is that software running? So all these things, when you bring them together, basically, right, it kind of begs for edge cloud. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because if you look at today's world and you see people like, yeah, self-driving cars, and I'm just gonna get in my car and somehow the city is gonna route me to my destination while I sleep or read or watch a movie, and all those things. And the movies show these are fantasies a while back, and the movies have a way of driving our imagination. So people start, I mean, the moment I announce Edge Cloud and I'm doing this and whatever, right? All friends and everyone who knows me is like, oh, so when can we get that? And when can we have that? And I was like, guys, we just started building these things.
You'll probably have to move into a new city, a smart city. There's a few
That's exactly.
but like
You know,
old, you're not going to be retrofitted like that. I don't think anytime soon.
don't confuse experiments done in a contained field from a production.
So,
Tulio, sorry to interrupt, Tulio, but I think it's time for our display of high-tech devices.
oh yeah, we have our own Edge chat bot that we have to activate for questions from the audience.
Yes.
Okay, you ready? You ready? Ready?
I'm ready on my end. Are you ready with the button? Here.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
Okay.
Did you hear it? I hit the button.
Okay. Yes.
Super
if you have any questions, for Sunay, if you're watching this, okay, this is our high-tech device chatbot.
It's integrated with Twitter. There you go. That's the Twitter handle.
Integrates with Twitter very nicely, right? So if you have any questions for Sunay, just make sure you go here. You know Twitter, right? You know what it is. So very simple, straightforward. Ask a question on Twitter right here. Use this handle, and boom, we're gonna read it back to Sunay, and then he can respond right here on the spot during this broadcast. With that being said, okay, it's time for our chatbot to go away. Okay, let me just find the right button here. Okay, here it is. Okay, delete, return. Oh, here.
Awesome.
There you go. Thank you, Tulio. That was such a gratifying display of high tech.
Super high tech.
There's so you guys are laughing about it. The high tech that we're dealing with is not that far from what you guys just did. There's a perception and there's a reality.
Yeah, I coded that chatbot myself, and I'm not even an engineer. Use the AI to do it. So there's so many applications for this, obviously, right? I mean, I heard you speaking, and I was remembering we had Vince Cerf as a guest about a month and a half or 2 months ago. He's like the co-founder of TCP/IP. He's the chief internet evangelist at Google, and he was talking about how the internet has reached 50% penetration worldwide, and he's like 70 something. He's like, I can't retire until we get to 100%, and they're already working on putting internet like on Mars, where you can put it on devices that are in outer space. And I started thinking, man, there's so many applications for what you're doing that could take pictures from like outer space and send them back. But I'm curious to ask, how do you prioritize? And you're at this almost a year. How are you going to prioritize where to go, focus your first initial attention? If you could share that with us, that'd be great.
There is the reality, and we are business, and we are also, very recognizing the fact that Deutsche Telekom spent a lot of effort and time to help us, give us an opportunity to go and do this, basically. So we want to take their wishes into account. But it seems like everything is aligned towards we got to have some fun while we're doing this, basically, right? So guess what is our first application that we are actually all very, very interested in enabling on Edge? It's multiplayer gaming.
Interesting.
So it's like, you want to go and instead of three of us chatting, we actually want to go and play a game against each other, basically, and we actually want to really mirror the real world, right, on that game, and slug each other out. When I punch you and you want to block it, it needs to reflect as if we were doing it physically, which means actions and all those things need to be shared. Now keep in mind that what I'm describing would work a lot better if we are kind of near each other versus kind of between San Francisco and LA. But that's the kind of things we're looking at. Let's do some fun things. Let's do some fun things with drones, right? And make a bunch of drones work together and do something interesting. Let's do some fun things with people and gaming, and let's bring some fun into technology.
That sounds fun. I kept hearing NVIDIA might be a good partner to go talk to. Huh?
Like I said, I'll tell you, my son is a teenager, just entered high school. And I built a lot of technology in this world, right? Like I said, some of how the containers that you interact with and see today, a lot of the container isolation, networking, all those things were built by me back in 2000. And, for a lot of my friends, oh, Sunay does cool stuff. But my son never ever cared about what I did in life. Now in current incarnation of gaming, basically, and whatever, all of a sudden he's very interested in what I do for a living. So if nothing else, you get to be, and everyone, we get to be cool parents.
Absolutely. Look,
we have a question actually.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Just let me quickly add this before you go to that question. I remember playing Atari when I was a kid, right? And I'm not into gaming, but I have an 8-year-old, so I've signed up for the 40-year parenting plan, and I got the new Apple 4K, and it had some cool games in it. I found myself playing with them and interacting with other people. I was like, wow, how did this happen? So I'm kind of with you with the gaming thing. I don't think it's just for teenage kids. You'd be surprised how many adults play with those things too. Go ahead, Carlos. Sorry for the interruption. You had a question.
No, that's right. Actually, the question is coming from from one of our teammates, way in Hermosillo, in our Hermosillo office, from Dora Cortázar. And Dora, well, she's in recruiting, so she says, how are you going about finding good talent to work for MobiledgeX?
Yeah, so that's interesting part, right? I mean, there in Silicon Valley, there's a lot of talent, but we're still very short of talent, basically, right? So it turns out that, there's a set of people here, engineers, who have worked with me for a while. There are others in MobiledgeX. Some of us have worked together. So right now, the team, which is about 25, 30 odd people, are kind of, people who have worked together before, like working together, understand each other very well. So that's kind of, how a lot of the startups actually come about in Silicon Valley. But to Dora's point, as we expand, as we grow next year, to build edge compute will take a lot of resources, and we'll need a lot of resources. And it's one problem that I know is a problem, and we'll have to solve it at some point, basically. And maybe Dora will help me solve some of these problems.
That's why we're here. Absolutely. Great question. Is there another one, Carlos?
No, not yet, Tulio.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I'm reminding our folks right there at Hermosillo, which is where we have most of them, that they can send us their questions on our channel. But in the meantime, I'll go chase them, and then you go right ahead, and I'll be right back with you.
I was going to say, I mean, the gaming things I think is pretty awesome. I was at a campus party in Guadalajara, Mexico last year, and there were 25,000 hackers, gamers that showed up to this event. And gaming was big. And so I think you're definitely onto something that's kind of global implications.
And if you look at a lot of these gaming companies, right, these are like small startups, small companies, 20, 50, 100, 200 people. They're all making revenues anywhere between $50, $100 million to billions of dollars. And they see a potential. They're like, we're not even tapping the edge of the market. We have a lot of potential. We just need to build technology and edge where we can reach these people and enable a lot of features. So that seems to be, and keep in mind, I'm saying it flippantly that, let's have some fun. But gaming has always led technology. Gaming has always made, the highest bar has always been gaming.
Yeah. I think of gaming kind of like the racing circuits, where they test the cars and then they fix them and get them just right before they introduce them to the public market. I think it's a perfect scenario. Shifting gear a little bit, we're big on culture. I heard you have 25 people that you've worked with before. There's got to be some magic that people are attracted to. They want to keep working together. Tell us a little bit about your culture, your business culture, your mindset. Can you share that a little bit with us?
Yeah, so generally, that's a very good question, right? What is the mindset that drives and the culture that drives these people, right? So general thing is around, like, most of these people know, at least who work with us, that we are very, very innovative company. So for a lot of engineers, especially smart ones, what ends up happening is, even throw money, everyone is throwing money on the table, the salaries are high and all that. But that keeps you happy for maybe a month or 2 months. What really keeps people happy is building something interesting, building something meaningful, building something that's going to get deployed. So a lot of my culture is driven by guys, we're here to build something that people want, people need. And by the way, guys, I'm gonna build. So my management style is not like typical management. I'm a coder. I'm an engineer. When I work with engineering, I'm sitting there and writing code with them. I'm discussing code. I'm writing code. I'm whatever. So we work as a team, right? For all practical purpose, we work as a team, all doing stuff together. And that culture, the fact that there are no bosses when engineering happens, there are no, everyone is just working together to do the best. That culture is what drives, a lot of people coming here, basically, right? Also, some of it is, at some point people start realizing that, I I personally built a lot of things that defines today's industry, right? And same thing, the other leadership in MobiledgeX have driven a lot of these things. So people come here because they know we are not out here on some science experiment. We are actually going to build something that's going to be very useful.
It's pretty amazing.
I did not use the word change the world.
That would be the first time we don't hear that from a company in Silicon Valley. We share that same philosophy. It's amazing what happens when you remove bosses and you allow teams to just self-manage themselves. Innovation happens. It's pretty amazing. We've been living like that for over 10 years. So we're coming up on time. It's amazing how time goes by when the topic is interesting. Any words of wisdom you want to share with us or other CTOs about, keeping things fun and staying on top of the roadmap? Anything you want to share with us from your experience?
My recommendation too, because the reason we agreed to do this, you have a lot of developers in your audience, basically, right? And a lot of technical people. There's only one advice I would give to everyone, right? Make sure what you're doing, you like doing what you're doing, basically, right? Make sure the job is fun. Just don't chase the paycheck, right? I mean, paycheck is always important, basically, right? We all need food on the table, and kids need to go to school, and so on and so forth. But make sure that your job is fun, right?
Yeah. Great advice.
We spend so much time at work. If work is not fun, it gets a drag.
Well, it sounds like you have a fun company, fun product in a fun industry. So congratulations. I definitely want to stay in touch and see how things progress.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. Carlos, I'm going to pass it back to you to wrap things up. It's amazing. Time's already flown by.
Thanks, Tulio.
Carlos, you're on mute or something.
Right. Yeah, I always seem to forget that. That's it. Okay, so the only thing left for me, Sunay, on my end, is simply thank you for having been with us today. And as Tulio says, we look forward to being in touch. And of course, just keeping, as we say at Nearsoft, keeping the magic moving along.
And by the way, Carlos, I'm building the technology on Edge where you won't have to unmute yourself. Your video, based on your video, will figure it out that you're speaking and you should be others should be hearing you. And the software will automatically unmute you.
Yeah, we'll look forward to that because we're in the process of trying to find out alternatives to Hangouts on Air. So, of course, that's always welcome. I appreciate your insight and your comments.
It works, but we need a next-gen thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when I don't have to press a button to activate the chatbot. That would be really cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's the hardest part, right? Yeah. Okay. So, again, Sunay, it was really an honor and a pleasure to have you here in our show. And before we go, and this is something that we normally do, is make a quick announcement about next week. Next week, we are going to have as a guest is Joyce Wu. She is the founder of a company called Cluck. And she's going to be, Cluck as in with a U, Cluck. And she's going to be talking about how to utilize technology for business development in travel and tourism. So that should be interesting, especially for our travel tech folks. And with that being said, remember, mark your calendars next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Central, 1 Pacific, right here on Dojo Live, connecting experts like you. Thank you, and you have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.